As you know, there are several different transaction types in GP. In this section, I'll explain how Credit Card Advantage works with book and ship transaction types. First, let's quickly go over how these transactions are defined within the scope of Credit Card Advantage. Please note that although the names of different transaction types may vary by payment gateway, the processing details are usually the same. A book transaction may also be commonly known as a pre-authorization. This is the reservation of a specified amount on the customer's credit card or account at order placement time. A book does not actually charge the card nor transfer any money, and it is only good for a certain amount of time, typically 7 to 10 business days depending on the cardholder's issuing bank. This type of transaction is useful for companies that ship merchandise a day or two after receiving the order. A ship transaction is necessary to complete a previous book. A ship results in an immediate charge to the customer's credit card or account. Typically, a ship is guaranteed approval as long as the amount is not greater than the original book amount and the ship transaction was processed before the book expired. However, some gateways such as PayPal Payflow Pro actually allows processing a ship transaction with the amount greater than the original book amount. A ship transaction is also known as delayed capture. Now, book transactions and ship transactions go hand in hand. As I mentioned earlier, a book can only be completed by a ship, and a ship can only be issued to a book. To demonstrate how CCA works with book and ship transactions, let's create an order document. Let's save the document to a batch ID. Once all the information is entered, go to Additional, then choose Book Transaction, or use the shortcut keys Ctrl B. This now brings up the Notice e-Transaction entry window. As mentioned earlier, this is where you can enter a customer's credit card information and process the transaction. Notice that for transaction type it says Book. Since we want to do a book transaction, let's leave it the way it is. Next to it is the batch ID we have assigned to this transaction in the previous window. So at this point, we could either select the previously used card from the customer's wallet or enter information for a new card. Let's select a card from this customer's wallet. Before processing, verify that all the customer's information and the amount are correct. Once you're ready, click Process to book the transaction immediately. So we see here that the transaction was approved. As mentioned earlier, if it was declined, we would be getting a decline message back, which includes the reason for the denial. Let's view the transaction receipt on the screen. Notice that the remaining balance is shown here. Why is it not zero? This is because we have only booked the transaction, which simply reserved the funds in the customer's card. We have not charged the customer yet. Let's go back to our sales transaction entry window. Notice that we now have a smaller window called the Authorized Transactions window. This window only appears when a document is associated with a CCA book transaction. On this table, you can see that we have in fact booked the total amount of the customer's order. When the order is ready to ship, we now need to transfer this document to an invoice. The user can only process the ship transaction against an invoice document, not an order document. Go to Actions, then Transfer. This brings up the Sales Transfer Documents window. The actions available to us are to check Transfer to Invoice and make sure to check Include Totals and Deposits so that the booked amount will be carried over to the invoice we are creating. Once done, click Transfer. This brings up the Report Destination window for us again. We would like to view the transfer report on our screen. This report now shows that we have successfully transferred our order document into an invoice document. Closing this report out, we have our sales transaction entry window back. Note that we are now viewing our newly transferred invoice document. Also note that the authorized transactions window is still there. At this point, we will be able to ship the order, which also means that we are ready to charge the customer's credit card. For book and ship transactions, this is done from the Authorized Transactions window. Change the type from book transaction to ship transaction. Once the type has been changed, the Ship button will be available for us to click. Click on the Ship button. What we're doing now is we are capturing the funds or actually charging the customer's credit card. This brings up the Authorizations window, where we can see that the booked amount or pre-authorized amount is the same as the shipped amount, which was the total amount charged against the customer's credit card. We also see that this transaction was approved by the payment processor. Let's take a look at the receipt on our screen. As you can see here, the amount remaining is now 0, meaning that we did successfully capture the funds for this order. Now, some of you may have noticed that when we clicked the Ship button earlier, the sales payment entry window also appeared on the screen, along with the authorizations window, which we just closed a few moments ago. Here in the sales payment entry window, we see that the credit card payment line was automatically inserted by CCA. Note that when you select the credit card payment line, you will be able to view that credit card's details as well as the authorization information. Before we save, let's review all the information in our invoice document. Since we did charge the customer's card successfully, on account is now 0. Everything else seems to be in order, so all we need to do now is save the document for batch posting later on. And that ends our section on how book and ship transactions are done with Credit Card Advantage.